The grand mansion stood at the edge of the city like a silent monument of wealth and power. Its tall iron gates rose like guardians, shielding the world inside from the lives of ordinary people beyond. Behind those gates lived a man whose name carried weight in every boardroom, a man who owned half the skyscrapers that pierced the city skyline, a man whose signature alone could alter the fate of entire companies overnight. His name was Mr. Alden. To the world, he was the definition of success. He lived in marble halls lit by golden chandeliers, walked on floors polished so perfectly they reflected every step, and hosted grand dinners where powerful men and women toasted to his genius. Yet for all his fortune, for all the glittering symbols of power he possessed, Mr. Alden carried within him a wound that no amount of money could ever heal. His only child, Lily, was believed to be blind. From the time she was a toddler, doctors confirmed the condition with grave certainty. She did not follow the light when it flickered across the room. She never reached for the rainbow of colors that painted the garden in spring. And when her father bent low, speaking softly, she never gazed back to meet his eyes. To Mr. Alden, this truth was unbearable, and yet it was inescapable. His little girl would never see his face. He blamed himself endlessly. He blamed his absence at her birth when he had chosen business over family. He blamed the choices that left Lily's mother alone in those fragile early months. By the time he tried to make amends, it was too late. Lily's world was cloaked in darkness, and so the mansion grew colder. The halls, though filled with servants, felt like corridors of shadows. Mr. Alden drowned his emotions in board meetings, mergers, and endless calls, while his daughter, dressed in gowns as flawless as porcelain dolls, wandered the vast house in silence, clutching her toys like lifelines. Everyone accepted the story. Everyone believed the doctors. Everyone except one. Her name was Clara. She was just a maid, a young woman in her 20s who had known struggle all her life. She had grown up with nothing but determination in her pockets, working long hours to support her younger siblings back home. Clara scrubbed marble floors until her knees ached, polished silver she could never afford, and dusted chandeliers whose crystals sparkled like stars she could never reach. Yet, despite the weight of poverty, Clara carried within her a quiet, unshakable light. Unlike others, she never treated Lily as fragile or broken. To her, Lily wasn't a patient to pity. She was a child, one who deserved laughter, warmth, and friendship. From her very first day in the mansion, Clara noticed things others missed. When Clara entered a room carrying a tray, Lily's head turned slightly, even before a single sound was made. When Clara arranged fresh flowers, Lily's gaze lingered on the bright petals just a heartbeat longer than chance would allow. And once, when Clara dropped a shimmering hairpin onto the carpet, she saw Lily's eyes flicker downward as though following the sparkle. The signs were small, almost invisible, but Clara noticed. She said nothing at first. Who was she, after all, just a maid? How could she dare question the words of renowned doctors or the beliefs of a man as powerful as Mr. Alden? Yet her heart whispered what her lips could not. Lily could see. Not perfectly, perhaps, but enough. Weeks passed, and Clara's suspicion only deepened. Quietly, she began to test it. She would place Lily's toys in different corners of the room, and every time Lily's hand reached unerringly toward the one glinting in sunlight. She would sweep the room with a small flashlight, pretending to clean, and each time she caught the faintest narrowing of Lily's pupils. Every sign added to her conviction, but also to her fear. If she was wrong, she could lose everything: her job, her livelihood, her ability to support her siblings. But if she was right, then a terrible truth had been buried under years of silence. The breaking point came one golden afternoon when sunlight poured through the tall windows of the playroom. Lily sat in her red dress, a stuffed bear nestled against her chest. Clara, her heart pounding, held a small torch and shone it softly, not to scare, but to test once more. And then she saw it, a spark, a flicker of life, a reflection dancing in Lily's eyes. Proof. Clara's breath caught in her throat, her hands trembled. This child isn't blind, she thought. She's been trapped in a story that was never hers. Just then footsteps echoed across the polished marble floor. Mr. Alden stood in the doorway, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the weariness in his eyes. He froze, his gaze falling on Clara with the torch in her hand. His expression darkened with suspicion, until he noticed what she had been trying to prove all along: Lily's eyes, wide open, alive, following the beam of light. The room seemed to stop breathing. Clara felt the world tilt, fearing she had ruined everything. But then Lily smiled faintly, her small hand reaching toward the glow, and whispered, "It's so bright." Mr. Alden staggered back. For years he had carried the guilt of her blindness like chains around his soul. To hear those words, to see her eyes glisten and move, shattered him. Could it be true? Was it possible? Clara, though trembling inside, spoke with quiet courage. She explained everything she had seen, the subtle movements, the missed signs, the tests she had done in secret. She admitted her fear of speaking up, but also her certainty that Lily was not blind, only misunderstood. Mr. Alden's world spun. How could a maid, untrained in medicine, see what a roomful of specialists had failed to notice? And yet, in front of his own eyes, the truth was undeniable. What followed was a whirlwind. New doctors were summoned, ones unburdened by past conclusions. Tests were run, lights flashed, patterns traced. Slowly, the reality unfolded. Lily suffered from a rare condition. Her vision was limited, but not gone. With therapy, patience, and proper care, it could grow stronger. For the first time in years, Mr. Alden wept, alone, behind closed doors, where no one could witness the breaking of a man the world thought unbreakable. He had believed his daughter lived in eternal darkness, and in that belief he had distanced himself, afraid of causing her more pain. But all along she had been waiting, for him to notice, for him to believe. And it was not his fortune or empires that saved her, but the compassion of a maid who had dared to see what others ignored. As weeks turned into months, Lily blossomed like spring after a harsh winter. She began to notice colors: the blue of her teddy bear, the green of the garden, the gold of sunlight dancing on the marble floor. Each discovery filled the mansion with laughter and joy. Mr. Alden, transformed, devoted himself to his daughter. He read picture books with her, guided her hand as she painted crooked rainbows, and laughed when she proudly pointed out the sparkle of his cufflinks. And through it all, he never forgot Clara. He offered her riches, promotions, anything she desired. But Clara, humble as ever, asked for nothing except that Lily be given the one thing money could never buy: time, love, and presence. The mansion, once a cold monument of wealth, became a home alive with laughter. Music floated through the halls. Servants no longer moved like shadows, but smiled as they worked. And Lily, once thought destined to darkness, lived each day with wonder as her world opened before her eyes. News of her story spread, whispered from neighbor to neighbor, then across the city. People found hope in it, a reminder that truth can hide in unexpected places, and that kindness has the power to change lives in ways wealth never can. To Lily, Clara was more than a maid. She was the sister she never had, the guardian angel who had seen her light. To Mr. Alden, she was the reminder that the greatest treasures in life are not found in vaults, but in the courage to care. And so, the mansion at the edge of the city stood no longer as a symbol of power alone. It became a place where light poured into windows and hearts alike. A place where a child learned to see, a father learned to love, and a maid proved that even in the grandest halls, kindness is the richest gift of all.